Greetings there, ladies and gentlemen. Hardi-Jay here once again with a thoughts and discussion video on Life is Strange. And joining me today is this gentleman over here, Otaku Ops.
Yo, yo, guys, how's it going? Otaku Ops here. So yeah, we're gonna do a kind of autopsy dissection video of Life is Strange.
We're gonna start off is Life is Strange. A game came out in 2015 in January, actually. That's episode one. Let's start with, because the guest always starts. Let's see how you learned about the game.
Okay, yep. So for me, it was just a thing on Steam, as far as I remember. It was like in the recommendations one day, and I saw the trailer. I thought it was interesting. I saw the storm thing coming, and I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. I knew that it was a kind of adventure slash decision-making game, and I like that because, I like Mass Effect. Mass Effect had choices.
Yeah.
So, great, I thought it was cool. And of course, later on, I just wanna mention it, I got the book, I got the art book,
Mm.
and I also got this is a very rare thing, I think. It's a Foles ending credits song, which has the instrumental, which I
Mm.
wanna do a cover at some point. So that's it.
So for me, I saw it was a YouTube video. I can't remember, like, because I see tons of videos from like GameSpot, IGN, so forth, and they always have trailers saying, "Hey, this game's coming up." So it's a teaser. It was probably in 2014, probably because it was came out in January, and I don't know what drawed me, but the visual style, the art, because this teaser trailer really brought the art and just the visual, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I got to check this out. Didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know exactly what it was or what everything, and then eventually I was on the fence when the first chapter came out, and I saw a playthrough a little bit, like the first not an hour, like half hour of it, and I was like, characters good. The art style, I found them to be a little bland at first, like very flat, but it fits the
It
the
does.
feel because it's all about like Max is in art school, so you got like an artistic type feel, and it's almost pastelly at times. It looks like there's a lot of art in the game, and you like pastels, watercolors, and so forth, and like her diary along the walls, like we're seeing right now, like in the art room. There's like all sorts of the things, and it's
Yeah, yeah. And also, like, of course, we have to kind of mention here that the main character
mm,
is basically a photographer.
it
So
is,
she does photography, kind of Polaroids.
yeah, old school.
She has friends who do art, drawing, etc. So art is very much part of this game.
It is, it is, and they throw the like the big names, like the oh, this is this type of equipment or this type of equipment, and you just go through like what's going on in the background, and you're I'm geeking out. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot of stuff. But that's kind of what it is. And when I played the first episode, I was pretty much hooked. Even to the ending, and then you got that hook, and they did it very well, and it continues on
We
in each of the chapters, definitely.
Yeah, the name of the first episode, by the way, is Chrysalis, and chrysalis means quiescent insect pupa, especially of a butterfly or moth. We're going to talk about butterflies later on,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
but it's basically also it can be a transitional state, which the game is kind of about. It's a coming of age story partially. There's more, but this is definitely one theme of it.
No, there's many themes, and that's one of them. But I can agree with you. It's like it's a very certain characters like Max and Chloe are going like they're familiar with something, but they're going in something new. And we'll
Right.
get into the characters a little bit more, but yeah, like this transitional stage of going from the pupa to the butterfly, basically. So it's the first step, a chapter one per se.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also was reading about it the other day. The developers who made this game, they actually even admitted that basically especially the first episode was just full of stereotypes.
Oh yeah.
We see a lot of stereotypes, like, for example, Victoria, she's the typical. Can we curse on this channel?
Uh, yeah, it's over a minute, so yeah,
All right. So she's basically like the traditional bitch.
yeah, oh yeah,
Max is, again, just at the beginning, she's really nothing special, just kind of the average teenage
shy,
girl, you know,
shy,
shy. Yeah.
yeah, shy girl, basically, just keeps to herself, and hell, there, so many people. It's like you're just in the corner sitting down with your camera and you're kind of in your own world
Right,
and
right.
yeah, and you got Chloe as the punk rebel, and what else there's to like there's just yeah, it's good for storytelling, and then also it's good to have those traits, those characteristics kind of broken later on, and as they grow, evolve, and so forth. I want to definitely talk about one later on, and probably in a different episode, but one definitely comes to mind where you have a different opinion now than at the end. You kind of probably on who I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, for me, this game came kind of an interesting time because even when I was growing up, like mostly in the 90s, the world is completely different now.
Mm.
People have different priorities. A lot of people are basically on OnlyFans doing,
Oh yeah,
strange services.
oh yeah,
And this stuff just didn't exist like 20 years ago. So also it came at a interesting time in my life because I was like questioning a lot of things. I was kind of doubting things, and this game makes you like pick decisions, like sometimes
oh,
very hard decisions,
that's very true.
and we'll definitely talk about that more.
Oh, definitely. And talking about the time of a good time in your life when this game came out for myself, I was going through very deep depression and wanting to change the past. So seeing that how this talks about time travel and you can change the past, it's like, oh, it just really stuck with me, especially in later chapters. But like it kind of helped me be like, hey, guess what? Yeah, like you wish you could go back and change the past, but that doesn't always happen. And you just got to accept what life throws at you, and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely one thing of the game is, well, I mean, you don't have to choose that path because again, it's about options, it's about choices. But definitely I guess the canon
Yes.
is to let go
Yes.
because we're going to talk about it later, but this one character always gets into trouble, and
Yes.
the game is basically telling you life wants her dead. And you,
Yeah,
yeah, you can try to save her and stuff, but at the end of the day, they just want you to let go and kind of move on with your life.
yeah. I totally. Well, there's the a great thing about decisions is that you don't have to go that way. You can go to choose to save this person over and over again until the very end. And that's one way you can go. And I know probably a lot of people go that way because they get attached to that character. And well, I have my own opinions about that character, but we will discuss that character when we talk about characters. So that's, I guess, the summary of where we kind of got it and where we were in the life and so forth of like this. I guess we'll go with first impressions. What was your first impression playing the game?
Good. The very beginning with the storm was good. Then it goes into the classroom, right?
Yeah,
And the classroom was just,
a
I felt
classroom.
like a classroom, right?
Yeah,
I felt back in school, um, nothing special. But then you get the hallway thing, where she walks out, and
yeah,
you have to go to the bathroom basically.
yeah.
And when she gets out, she turns on the music. There is a great song, and I just want to comment on the song very quickly.
Mm.
That song is actually a parody on American Girls. It's if you
I can
actually
see
read
that.
the lyrics. Yeah, yeah.
I can see that.
If you read the lyrics, you'll see that first it starts okay, but then there is kind of a criticism of American
Mm,
girls in general, the stereotypes anyway.
yeah.
So it's a good song, and the hallway scene, I just thought, wow, this is cinematic. So now that's gonna be an interesting experience.
Almost definitely. I think the hallway scene is a good setup for the minor characters because you can literally go down and it reminds you of going back like in high school. You see all these people, and it's like, oh, that person does that, or that person is known for that. And it's like it's all in your head because you don't say these things to these people, but you're going down and perfect for the example in the back is we're going along the hallway and Max is having little comments about every single person that she's going with. So it's good to set up like the minor characters and being like, oh, we're gonna probably run into these and they're gonna play maybe like a small role to like a minor small role in the story ahead. And some of them, yeah, they're well, one I have to say is the one is Alyssa, where you have to save her every single episode in some like minute way, like her getting hit by a football or toilet paper or something. And you just have to come up to her and say, "Can you move?"
Alyssa, move your head.
If you insist, Max.
And that's it.
Right.
That's it. So it's like a little minor thing. And there's like the clicks. It's established almost right at the beginning that you got your groups, you got your like shy geek people, your sports people, and then your vortex people, and we're definitely going to get into that more. And
Yeah, just one thing I want to quickly mention here. This game, it depends how deep you want to go into it.
oh,
So basically, you can just go from point A to point B, and that's fine. You'll get the story. But to really get into the background of things, you really do have to read everything and talk to every character,
yeah,
and that's it's all about immersion.
exactly. And the video in the back where you go to the billboard and you just check what's going on and you see other characters and their personality show on that. It's like one's looking for like there's a I think a ongoing gag throughout the entire chapters about someone trying to find their cat pics and
Uh-huh.
They eventually do find them, but the thing is, it's not really in the open. You got to look at the environment and check out post-its and bulletin boards and all that. You totally miss it if you don't do that. And I want to point out another thing is the best thing, and a lot of people don't do this, is checking Max's diary.
Yep.
Like every scene transition or something, like something happens, she writes something about it. And if that event changes, it changes what she writes. Again, later on in other circumstances, let's just say, that changes also. And I really find that really intriguing. Like it's about, like you said, it depends how deep you want to go with this.
Wait, just you briefly mentioned time travel, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess in the game it's fair to say that she's basically turning, rewinding back time. You're gonna do a lot of rewinding in the game. Like just from a physics point of view, very quickly, there is a very famous, physicist in the UK called Brian Cox, and he's basically said that time travel to the past may be impossible. Going to the future, though, is possible. So, but again, we don't know. This is very speculative.
Hmm. Kind of also what brought me into this, like about the whole time travel and again, if it's done right, it's it's good. And if it's really done terribly, it's really bad.
Yeah,
And as Life Strange, it really does it good because it dabbles. It doesn't explain anything. Like I played through the entire game and I'm like, why is Max have these powers? Like where do they come from? Like what it never explained. Like
yeah.
there's hints here and there, but it's never blatantly said that she gets this powers from here.
I just hope that eventually, like in the future, because I know they're still making more of
Hmm.
Life is Strange games, maybe they will kind of meet or something and use their combined powers for stuff.
Like an
I doubt it,
Avengers
but
type
it is
thing.
possible. Maybe, maybe.
Yeah, because I think each major character or someone linked to the main character have some sort of special powers of some sort. Again, I only dabbled in two a little bit. There's not really anything to do with Before the Storm because it's a prequel to this. And the new one, True Colors, I haven't touched yet. So let's get on to, I guess, the first major decision, seeing that we're almost there.
Yep.
So
So
first major,
Nathan's gun
Nathan's gun. So you have a choice of reporting him to the principal
or not.
or not. And it's a choice. You even if you go to the door and ignore the principal, he calls you over and you have to make a decision.
For me, I know now in hindsight, I know a better solution, but
Hmm.
I think in the heat of the moment, you basically feel like, yeah, reporting because, it's a crime. Nobody should have a gun in school except like maybe the guard or something. Ordinary students should definitely not have weapons. The impulse is to report his ass, but in reality, it's not quite like that. What about yourself?
So for me, I was pretty much the same way. Like guns at school is a big no. And even though he's like one of these rich kids, thinks that, he is he's all that. Again, you know, it's a weapon and gotta have some gun control. Doesn't matter. And yeah, I reported him and I'm like, I just because I was really hooked. It I was like, okay, this guy is a bad seed. I want to see where it
Right.
goes. I want to see where it goes. So yeah, I reported him, and but in hindsight, yeah, like, but again, there's consequences to this action. Depends on what you do. If you do nothing, it affects later on decisions, and if you report them, it affects later on decisions also. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
most immediate, but also later on in decisions. So
Yeah. I think like in the context of this particular video, we have to talk about the impacts on the future episodes.
yeah,
So yes, we will talk about the episodes later.
yeah,
But as far as the decision goes, this particular one, it's probably best to not report him just based on the other consequences.
yeah.
So just bear that in mind.
I totally agree. Because you're like, if you play it as is, you think that this guy is pretty much behind it all. He's the mastermind doing this, and when you get into like more of the story where you deal with the missing girls, let's bring it up to the dark room.
Mm.
You think that this guy is the big honcho, which in
Mm.
actual fact he's not. He's just another pawn in someone else's plan.
He is, yeah.
And in the end, you almost kind of feel sorry for him a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So if you look at the decisions of other players, so yeah, when you finish the game,
Mm,
you're gonna get a screen of stats, basically like how other people played it and what they chose. It
Yep,
all gets recorded online, and then people can see that. So in this particular case, 62% chose to report him.
yep,
So yeah, for this, I guess this is from the first gameplay because I don't records really the first one. So yeah, people also kind of got sucked into it,
yeah.
like
And I believe
yeah,
that's good storytelling. Also, you want to brings expectations, and then in the end, you want to break those expectations and change and all that. So you think this guy's Nathan's a bad seed, and he's like, holy cow, like this guy has a gun, he's at school, he's trying to kill a fellow student because you don't know who this girl is. He's in the girls' washroom first of all, so
yeah,
that's weird to begin with. You could really get sucked in and be like, holy jeez, like this is serious.
yep. So the next one, what do you have for decisions?
For decisions, the next major decision
The
is
Victoria thing?
the Victoria thing. So we'll set up the scene. You have to get into the dormitory, and Victoria and her, I guess, minions, or I think she calls them minions, or
Mm,
are on the steps and letting no one in at all. So
right.
Max has to find a way, and this is, I guess, the gameplay in this game is to find solutions to problems like this. And solution is to get her off by turning up the sprinkler system, tampering with the paint can. The janitor, the groundskeeper, Samuel, goes up, starts painting the windows. The water comes on. Victoria gets up. The paint can falls down. Paint goes all over her. She freaks out a little bit. Her minions go inside to get a towel. She sits on the stairs, very kind of lonesome, and what I can't really what Max says. Like she's lonely and all that. So you go up to her and you have a choice of making fun of her or comforting her.
Yeah, so, well, we already talked about Victoria, actually. I already mentioned that she was
Yeah.
a stereotypical bitch,
Yes.
basically. That is true. And definitely she behaves like it, like this very rich, preppy kind of girl.
Yeah.
But in the conversations, it becomes clear that she's actually quite lonely. Like, yeah, she's surrounded by those two other girls, but like, there's nothing there. It's just kind of,
Superficial.
it's very superficial, right? And again, you can be mean to her. You can make fun that, hey, like the paint can fell on you, or you can comfort her. I went for with comfort her because there's no point to kick a dead horse, as we say.
Yeah. And that's what I did the first time also, because again, I have to commend this group in the writing style. You really get sucked in with the characters, and they really, yeah, like everyone's a stereotype, but the thing is, you get sucked into those stereotypes, and it's like, okay, she's the rich, preppy bitch, basically. But the thing is, when she's not around anyone, she's kind of subdued and kind of alone. And you get that in this moment. And you kind of feel sorry for her a little bit. It's like, oh wow, it's like I'm could reach out and be like an actual friend to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's go with the other foot here. Is that making fun of her, which I have actually done. I have to say Max really does some good stingers in there.
Oh wait, hold that pose.
No.
And no filter needed before I post this.
Making fun of her, and you obviously you take a picture of her in this state, and that has minor consequences with other people, like Warren. Later on, you show the picture of him, and then also in Chloe's room in this same episode, she looks at it and she just makes a comment on it. And I believe it's in an episode 2 also, that Victoria steals the picture back,
Mm-hmm.
and it really just kind of stays like that. In hindsight, I have to say, comforting her sounds like the right idea, but it might not be in the long run. And that's due to one decision later on in episode 4.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, in the stats, I think 70, where is it? 74% chose to comfort her,
Yeah.
and I guess that's the right thing to do. One thing we forgot to mention, by the way, is before the Nathan thing,
Mm.
there is the butterfly,
Yes.
and the butterfly in the bathroom. The butterfly actually represents different things for different cultures.
Hmm.
For example, for Christians, butterfly is a symbol of rebirth. But in Japanese folklore, it's more like a memory, soul of a deceased loved one.
Hmm.
Famous in China, it's something else. In Greece, it's kind of a soul once again.
Hmm.
And of course, butterfly is also a universal symbol of beauty. Somebody who looked into the files of Life is Strange noticed that the texture for the butterfly
Mm.
has the name of Chloe in it,
Yeah.
and so that's like major major spoiler there.
Well, yeah. I did want to bring it up, but I was going to bring it up that there's like that meaning behind a loved one or someone that Max truly cared about
Yeah,
symbolizes through there. And there's a big big hint in one of the endings that you see that butterfly again,
right.
and you'd be like, "Oh, yeah, that okay, that makes sense now." Again, it's all about, I guess, time travel. And the thing is that maybe that butterfly came back from the future to that moment to cause
Yeah.
things to happen. And that's speculation, but still possibly.
Yeah, because like the character of Chloe, right? She's basically the what do you call it? Like the catalyst or something.
Yeah.
She's like if she's not there, Max does not do much. Just goes to the classroom, chats to people, goes back to the dorm. That's it. Next day, rinse and repeat. Chloe is the one that really kind of takes her out of her comfort zone. And hey, let's go to the swimming pool at night, etc. So there's
Yeah.
more stuff later.
And you get the sense of that with Max, like in these opening parts where she just does the formulaic thing of like going to class, going to there, maybe hang out with a friend, very like very reductantly. It's like I don't really want to do this, but I guess I have to. The next major decision is Kate and David's
Yeah,
interaction together.
interaction. Yeah,
Is
yeah. So that one is interesting because again, the game gives you just very basic information, like, oh, like this guy shows up and he's kind of pissed and he's well, that's all you know really about him at the first. And so that's already forms a kind of mental image that okay, this guy is probably an ass as well. And
well, he definitely
so
comes off
he
like an
does.
ass at the beginning. Yeah,
He does. He does. But of course, you have to play more. There's more to the story. There's more to the character.
no,
So when it comes to this decision, you can take a photo of it or you can intervene. 84% of players intervened, and I agree with that. Nobody should be in a position where somebody really kind of lectures you for no really good reason. Because yeah, he thinks Kate did something,
yeah,
but he doesn't have evidence, and it just comes off as very
creepy,
creepy.
creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, I intervened also at the beginning, and most of the time, if I'm playing this game, unless I'm playing just for to see what happens, if I'm playing a game to play the game, I intervene with pretty much anything to do with Kate. I help her out tremendously throughout the first chapter and the second chapter as much as I can, because once we get to the second chapter, let's just say something big happens and
Hmm.
it gets traumatic, like wow,
Oh
like
yeah,
very emotional. This game tears through your emotions a lot.
it does. Interesting point about Kate. The big thing with her like story is
Mm,
that there's a lot of rumors in the Blackwell College about a sex tape, basically.
yeah,
And of course, now we live in technology era, and this the kind of thing is actually, unfortunately, quite common.
yeah,
There's like things like revenge porn,
mhm,
which you can go to jail for. So this is very serious topics. And also, there is a technology called deepfake, where they can take a video and basically put your face on that. So
yeah.
you can have a porno video, and they just put your face there and send it to coworkers and whatever. Huge issue. It can get you into a world of trouble, can get you fired, etc., etc.
No, indeed. And
So definitely, this is one of the big like topics of the game.
no doubt. Well, surveillance, making being watched, not knowing who's watching, and rumors. Like there's a lot of rumors in this, not just with Kate. There's tons of rumors with everyone. The big one also to bring up is Rachel. You hear about this girl all throughout the game. You hear tons that you still don't know until what, chapter 5, that what happened? No, 4. End of 4. And all throughout you're like, what's true, what's not? But yeah, with Kate, she went to a party, she tried to interact, She's your stereotypical church girl that's a goody goody. So obviously the meaner student body played on that and decided to drug her, I guess. Yeah, drug, and make a ridiculous video that compromises her position in what she is, and she's just really broken up about it in this one and the next episode also.
I guess for the minor decisions, again, it just depends how much immersion you want to get.
Exactly.
If you just want to get through the story, I mean, like the canon story, you just basically go to these big decisions.
Yeah.
And then, if you really want to immerse yourself in the environment and with the characters, then you can do a bunch of like minor choices. There's also like optional photos you can take, which unlock certain things.
Yeah.
Nothing really groundbreaking.
That's very true. And if you
Except
act
maybe the petition.
no, not really. That's
Not really.
doesn't really go too well. And I want to bring up looking through the global stats of this is there's a lot of huge splits where you think, hey, if you talk to this person, you'll probably go one way, and the global stats say no, and that shows that a lot of people probably haven't talked to or even went to that like immersion. It just went to like the major ones.
Like I mentioned, well, I made a kind of promo video yesterday for this video, and I mentioned that some of the choices are kind of shocking in a way. And the one that jumps to mind is Dana's pregnancy test.
Oh yeah.
Now, look, I get it. People don't like to be nosy.
Yeah.
Again, the story kind of makes you really look at the test. I mean, because that advances things. But apparently 98% of people didn't. That's almost everybody.
Oh
And
yeah.
that I don't understand.
There's also a thing with that is that you can look at it and then rewind so you don't
That's
actually
true.
have like there. And the thing is that you talk to Dana afterwards about it, and that's brings up another option to say, "Hey, I heard a rumor about you," and then she brings up the pregnancy. If you don't touch it, you don't have that option. But there's also like if you touch it and you just leave, there are other minor options to talk to. I think who is it? Zachary? It's not Zach.
Yeah,
Is it Logan or Zachary? I can't remember who.
Could be Logan. Yeah.
Logan, yeah. You can talk to Logan and tell him that he's like a piece of shit and all that
Mm.
afterwards. No,
The other minor decisions are like a bit later. We haven't gone there yet, but it's the Chloe Snow Globe, the evidence, and David's files.
yeah.
I personally I don't know much about these. What about yourself?
The snow globe. Personally, I have to say it's sentimental to Chloe because she got it from her father, her actual real father. When you're looking around a room and you break it, she just says, "Oh, dude, it's my snow globe."
Dude, you broke my glass snow dough. Thanks.
She sounds so not broken up about it. Like it's like I thought she would be like super pissed or something, but no, she's just very subdued about it. And the only thing that brings to the table, I think in episode 4, when you go to the house in a certain time period in the past, the snow globe is on the fireplace, and then Max comments how she
Right.
didn't break it or did break it. That's about it. So it's a little minor one. And then the files with David is that Max goes through basically looking for screwdrivers to fix her camera. So I don't know why Chloe is just being herself in the room. And again, I don't know why you invite someone over and basically ignore them and being like, hey, guess what? You look for your
Yeah, that
tools
was weird.
yourself,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, I've found that whole, like, yeah, it builds character. And she obviously, Chloe is missing Rachel and so forth. And that's the thing is with Chloe and Max have this disconnect at that time where they were friends and then Max moved away and then she came back and then Max didn't really be, hey, like when I got back, let's hit up Chloe and see what she has there. She stayed and away. And obviously
Yeah.
Chloe's a little pissed about that. So you go through her place, and this is where you find that David is Chloe's stepdad. And again, I thought Max would freak out a little bit more because she's dealt with David in even this episode with Kate, and she's like, "Oh, uh, Chloe's stepdad is the head of security at Blackwell."
Chloe's stepdad is head of security at Blackwell.
Just so in like a monotone voice, and so I thought she would be like, "Oh my god," she's like, no, no, very subdued.
It is. It is.
But
Yeah.
again, you have a choice to go snooping, and then you find the surveillance system that David put together in the house. Again, I don't know why Joyce and Chloe have no idea about it. It's like again, I don't know. It's, I guess he's very good at hiding the cameras or something.
He must be. I mean, especially these days, cameras are like, this big, so
Hmm.
you can hide them anywhere, really.
And then you go over a little bit more, and then you find the files, and then the thing is you have to drop them in oil and then
Right.
look through them. And then these files are the dirt, I guess, that David's trying to dig up on Kate. And again, at this point, you really don't know what's going on with that. It's like he looks like a creep, especially if
He does.
seeing how he was going on with Kate just like half hour ago with the in front of the dormitories.
Right.
You could leave the evidence in the oil for him to find, and then that comes to a thing later on.
I ordered you to never go through my files. You obviously have.
I didn't touch your files, David. I could care less about your files.
And or you can rewind and have it not happen but go through it. And then that brought up to Chloe later on in the episode.
Yeah. So the major choice there, and this is like ridiculous, by the way.
Hmm.
The first time I played it, I totally fell in the trap. I just didn't see it.
Hmm.
There's basically like this closet thing, and I think there's a light you have to move, basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about that. I thought it's just there, and of course, yeah, it falls down, and then I think everything opens up, and there you are in the open. So yeah, the choice there is they argue. So David and Chloe argue. You can take the blame. You can do nothing. Or you can do nothing and then come out.
Yeah.
Which I did, actually. That's what I did. But if you look at the other people's decisions, it's kind of only around 30%. Like only 30% of people intervened here. So
Yeah.
most people chose to stay hidden in the closet, I guess.
Well, for my first one is that I hid and then came out and took the blame. That's the first time. Because again, you get hooked and it's like, oh, well, I kind of feel bad for Chloe. And if you actually did go through the scene and you stay hidden, then David like slaps her. And you're like, wow, like that's not right. And you're
No.
like, wow, okay, so you rewind that and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to come in and be like, I'll take the blame.
He's mad at her for like some reason. I can't remember what it is. But then he notices that she's smoking pot.
Yeah.
and that just makes him enraged. And again, like pot these days is a big kind of hot topic, especially in Canada and the
Oh, yeah.
US. Personally, for me, well, I live in Japan. In Japan, they have a zero tolerance policy on marijuana in general, which I disagree with. I think it's one of those soft drugs. Just make it legal, because the problem right now is that a lot of it is owned by cartels, and so if you buy it, money goes to these cartels, which is not good.
Yeah.
So at least if you make it legal, it goes back into the economy basically, and that's great, because with cartels it just disappears. They
Yeah.
keep it. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah. I think the reason I'm trying to think like that he busts this into Chloe's room is that one of his guns is missing, and
Right,
he thinks that she took it, and
right.
he has no evidence, but he kind of thinks, and he comes in, and Chloe thinks that well he's just on his one of his rampages again, and just kind of dismisses it, and then he notices the pot, and then that sends him over the edge, and then sends her off the edge, and then if you stay hidden, that's where he slaps her, and he you can see the frustration, and I can relate to that sometimes, where I have a daughter, and then she frustrates me, but I'm like 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 David, he does not know how to deal with his emotions. He does not.
Mm.
And that's because he's a soldier. He was a soldier, and you're meant to be suppressing those emotions and going out to war. So coming back and having to deal with emotions is really difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Well, personally, I've never been in the army. I know it sounds kind of strange as an American, but hey, not all Americans go to the army. But I know people who have been to the army. I know people who served in Afghanistan, for example, and some of them are very strange people, I have to say. But definitely war changes you. I mean, just the stuff you see there, it's even like even on the news, they don't actually show these things. They don't show the dead bodies. None of that, because they know, the snowflakes today just can't take it. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, definitely him being in the army, you can kind of understand him, but not really.
It's also another stereotype where
It
they
is.
play it up and be like, oh well, this character is like this. And again, later on, expectations are changed.
Yes.
Yes, and so yeah, that's what it is. Like the chemistry between pretty much everyone in the Price household, they go off of each other in some way. Like
Mm.
obviously Joy and David, they're 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 married, so but the thing is that Joyce puts up with David's crap a lot, and that's a choice that she makes because she's, I don't know, maybe lonely after her actual husband died. So, you know,
Yeah.
there's that. And then obviously, there's a lot. You spend a lot of time in the Price hellhole, the or hellhole. That's what Coley calls it. But the
Yes.
Price is place.
Yes.
And like there's a lot. Holy cow, like there's a lot. And you get a lot of backstory with Chloe and Max if you sit on the sofa. Again, if it's about that flavor text, if you want it or not. You don't have to sit on the sofa. You don't have to have Max remember a memory that Chloe and her drank wine for the first time and made a stain on the carpet that's still there. And you go outside, you go on the swing set, and she has a memory of treasure hunting with Chloe in the backyard, which is the bonus episode of Before the Storm, which is good.
Yes. And it's also the theme in that weird standalone episode they made with the Captain something. I forgot his name.
Captain Spirit.
Captain Spirit. There
Yeah.
you go. He has to go through this weird tunnel and find some stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a side story.
That is.
The interesting thing about this episode, in the end, Chloe and Max go to the lighthouse, and Max has an episode, let's say.
Yeah.
So she starts to feel kind of weird. And I honestly, like in that particular scene, I didn't see the intensity from Chloe. Chloe just looks ahead, and then like Max feels bad in the background, and she goes like, nothing. Like there's no emotion. There's no kind of fear. They could have done that part a little bit better.
The great thing is about the other decision before with the pot is there's a very disconnect, seeing that there's all obviously different choices that you can do. Obviously, if you take the blame in any way, Chloe will absolutely love you, and you'll get in her favorite books. And if you stay hidden, she'll still like you, but be kind of pissed. And then obviously, if you blame her, she'll be super pissed and actually not even wait for you and just leave. Which in my last playthrough, which is the footage you're seeing, that's what I did. Oh my god, and that's the 1%. 1% of people did that choice. And then in the following scene where she's at the lighthouse, she's still pissed and she shows it, but like halfway through it, the story picks up, and then she has to be, hey, guess what? I have to like this. I have to like Max again. And then she just changes as moods. She just changes from being pissed at her to being like really concerned. And it's like, oh my goodness. It's like, it's just the disconnect is a little off putting at times.
It is, yeah, and we'll talk about that later. I think it's in a later episode, maybe the second one actually. I don't remember. In the diner? Is it the second one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So Chloe, right? I mean, she's okay. So my best friend has this power, but we know that if she's using the power, it makes at least her nose bleed.
Yeah, as if she uses too much.
She does. She does. But it's like, okay, we know that, but hey, do it again. I just want to see it.
Oh yeah.
And that's just so kind of insensitive, right?
Well, the initial thing of her Max bringing up, hey, guess what? I might have, time travel powers. Chloe's like doesn't believe her at first. I love her quotes where it's like, this is not an anime or a video game. Little fourth wall breaking there. I love that because they're actually in a video game. And then obviously she needs proof. That's in the second episode. We'll get into more of that, I guess, when we get into the diner scene in the second one. But the big thing is the ending of the first one, which bring up with the storm, and we find out when it is.
Yeah. So weather anomalies are a theme in this game. There's many of them. Apparently, the game basically starts like around October 6 or 7, 2013. Let's say 7, just for the sake of argument. And so in the vision, you see this big kind of tornado coming. Again, this is very American because I think most tornadoes happen in the States, right? And people can relate to that. But again, October, I don't know, like we got October, November, December. October starts to get cold, but it's not quite cold to get snow though.
Well, I beg to differ here, but still, we we had snow in late October a few times, but that's a different story. Of course,
Yeah.
I'm live in the north, so
But the interesting thing about the snow here is that somebody mentions it, I guess, is that the temperature outside is 90 degrees.
yeah, that's Chloe.
Well,
I think Chloe
Fahrenheit.
mentions that it's like she goes like, "Oh my god, it's like I think 80 or 90 degrees."
The hell is this?
Snowflakes?
It's like 80 degrees. How?
And it's snowing. It's
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
You could just kind of chalk it off. It's a random freak weather event. It happens.
Yeah.
But
Or-
obviously, it has more significance in the
Or
game.
does it mean something more?
Yeah, right,
That's
right.
the thing. And that's all about the whole thing. Let's get into the vision that
Okay.
Maxis has and a little bit of what that possibly could be. Now, I did a bit of reading on the wiki. It's, again, a rabbit hole amongst itself. You could be for hours on there. And I was looking at alternative timelines and timelines in general. And there's apparently original timeline, which the game isn't. This is a different timeline you're playing through. The original timeline is where Max uses her powers only once, and that's in the bathroom to say Chloe. So I'm thinking, and again, either might be revenants, they might not. I might be just blowing smoke up my ass. Uh, that her visions is from that timeline, and somehow is connecting with the timeline that's currently going through when you're going through the game, and somehow is that that Max is connecting with the current Max to change it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty deep into this. I think, like, it depends how you see the game, really. I mean, is it like personally, me, I believe in the parallel dimension thing. I actually think it's a thing. We just can't demonstrate it yet, but I'm fairly sure it's there. So in that way, is it kind of a parallel dimension interacting with the past or with the present? There's tons of theories out there, and that's the good thing about this game is that makes you think.
Definitely does.
It's not just this one thing, but it's more kind of a tree with branches,
Oh, definitely.
and it makes you follow each branch and think like, what happens if I do this, and then like the butterfly effect, right?
Definitely.
So you
Yep.
think like something, like if I print something at home, the computer halfway across the world is broken or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's the butterfly effect in a
That's
nutshell.
the truth. And obviously, to bring that up is the original name for the game was a what if.
Mm,
That was the original one. And they changed it because there's a movie apparently with the same name and they didn't want to confuse, so they just called it Life is Strange. Again, a fitting name because life is definitely strange, especially if you have powers and weird
yeah.
stuff has happened.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing about this game is definitely it makes you think about especially the bad decisions. Like usually in life, we all make, of course, bad calls, but at first you don't really kind of notice the implication. But in this game, like especially by the end, if you make bad decisions, it's really gonna stick with you,
Oh,
and it's gonna haunt you. Let me say,
oh, yeah. More ways than one, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can think of quite a few. that
Right.
stick through all the way to the end.
With the vision, so okay, yeah, basically it's the storm, right?
Hmm.
It's like, okay, obviously, yeah, you know the storm is coming to the city. And we'll talk about the storm in the future because
Yeah.
actually it's kind of it's very strange in a way. That kind of vision, I'm not sure like what to make of it. In the first episode, let's just forget the other episodes for now.
Yeah.
It could just be a weird vision, like a one-off. It's like, okay, but you don't really know how it's attached yet. So definitely it's explained later.
Oh yeah, no. Well, you start the game, like literally start the new game. It's the vision, and you're like,
Right.
"What is this?" You're going up to the lighthouse. There's a giant tornado like there, and you're like, "What is going on?" And nothing explained. Even in this, there's one, nothing's explained. You got the other vision, a little bit of thing of like, "Oh yeah, okay, it's about a week away from episode is." Stuff is definitely going to happen from this chapter to the last chapter.
Yeah, I think like in the first episode, there's this sense of disbelief. Like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, so I had a vision, but it's like, so what, right? Definitely there's this kind of disbelief, but it becomes more reality as the game progresses because there are more weather events, which we'll mention in future
Yeah.
episodes. Because actually every day has something happening. It's like animals dying,
Mm.
stuff like that. There's signs that something is coming. And again, this is relatable in the real world because right now we also have these kind of events. We have like mass fish dying. Okay, not double moons yet, but
Give it time.
definitely
Give it
like
time.
give it time. Definitely climate events are getting worse, but that's us doing that. So birds dying, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, the big point is like, obviously, something is causing this. And
Right.
the game, I would say, not even, they kind of be like, oh, there's has to be a scientific reason behind it. And, but gives you kind of like a supernatural, mystical reason. It's like, oh, maybe it's this. And
Right.
obviously, it's later on. There's, I want to get into more of this because in each episode, there's obviously, I think you brought up that Chloe is, you have to save her like in each episode, and there's some meaning behind that, and
Yeah.
there might be some connection to why this phenomenons are going on, and that is also going. And there's also the thing of fate. People are fated to do something, and you're a girl with rewind powers that can change literally the things of fate. And
Yep.
so obviously you might be pissing off someone out there that deals with fate. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't believe in fate. I think it's just it's a nice concept, but yeah, not more than that. Speaking about the characters more specifically, just especially the main three.
Yeah.
So again, Max, we kind of talked about a little bit. Nothing special. Just she's suddenly with special power.
But I
Uh,
mean, plays the star.
she does. Takes photos.
Yeah.
Again, in the canon story, her boyfriend Warren,
I would say they're
a lot.
they're friends.
Yeah,
They're not do like, obviously Warren wants that relationship, but Max is kind of putting him on the back burner. So I wouldn't say they're
yeah,
girlfriend boyfriend, but they're kind of close friends maybe.
yeah. I mean, it depends. Like again, it depends on your choices in the game
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I mean, you can have a relationship. A lot of people actually didn't like him. They said that he tries too hard
Hmm.
and it's just kind of over the top. And I can see a little bit of that,
No, I can see a
but
lot of it. I can see a lot of that. Like he literally goes almost on the borderline of being predatory. Like he
yeah,
like gets he has enough like he takes enough back, but he gets into like let's let's do this, and he kind of for being a character that's kind of almost the geekish and getting like a stereotype of well a geek, he doesn't really play the part too well. Like he plays as a almost of a little obsessive. Like he's obsessed over Max and he wants to be with her, and he's trying to do what he can to do so.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he sometimes like gets back, but he's there. Uh, we could talk about the parking lot where you meet him, you give him the flash drive, and then Nathan comes. Uh, I have to say, besides the point of reporting him or not, he still comes after you, which I find a little ridiculous because, like, how's he
Yeah.
find out if you don't report him? That's the thing. So, and he takes one basically for the team, and so he gets up Nathan and Max goes in with Chloe and they take off. And
Yeah,
everything.
he fights quite a few times,
Oh yeah,
which is kind of interesting because he's not very strong apparently.
no,
He gets his ass kicked all the time.
oh yeah. Well, during the trip to the lighthouse, he sends you a picture of his black eye with a thumbs
Yes.
up, and he's proud of that. He's like I'm being not this geekish person. Like I'm sticking up with. Again, there's only so much you can do, and the thing is there's positive and negatives, and he's kind of going towards the negative aspects of being popular.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can see that. I don't know. For me, he was just nice. Just yeah, a bit over the top, but overall, okay compared to the other options.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well, no.
like Logan, for example, just forget it.
Oh, any of the frat boys are just like okay, one track minds, frat boys, football. I think it's Zachary who says the greatest line I have ever heard, where it's like, "Football, Max, football."
Football, Max. Big football. Step away.
Yeah, no, the minor characters, guys at least, are very one dimensional, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, uh, frat boys, football, beer, and that's about
pretty
it.
much.
That's the girls are a little bit different. They usually follow in their cliques, usually run by Victoria, and they're basically minions, but they have their own minds, which you kind of can weed your way into their stories if you want, but they're like subdued. They're like when you go out of the dorm, going back to the parking lot, I think Taylor's uh, just sitting by a
Yeah.
tree, and you don't really think, hey, maybe I should go talk to her. You kind of just be like, she's one of those girls Victoria hangs out with. So, you do want to do that, hey. But doing that, you get into a little bit of her story of her sick mother and all that. So, and she opens up and be like, hey, guess, we're glad we talked.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. You hit it on the nail. Hit the nail on the head or whatever
Yeah.
the expression is. I think again, it goes back to stereotypes. They definitely went, especially with guys,
Yeah.
just very much just the bare bones. Okay, so this guy is a football player, so he likes to drink and
Mm.
party and be with his girl. That's pretty much it. There's not much else to say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, again, it feeds into this kind of bigger thing these days because, these days we're all about feminism and promoting the woman, and the guys get really kind of shafted, and often it's for good reason, I have to say,
Yeah.
because a lot of guys are really pigs. That's the reality. Just we have to be honest about that. And unfortunately, these guys give us, the good guys, a bad image.
That's usually the case. But also going on the other side of the coin is that there's a lot of outside influences driving those guys to go that way because again, there's sometimes they're like I see this way's the go and they can't really have the way to go be like, hey, guess what? I can go this way. So there's that. I'm not being like, hey, guess what? They're actually have some redeemable stuff. Some guys are just beyond hope sometimes.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we both went to film school, and in our classroom, there were like many examples of guys who, like, I honestly doubt they will ever achieve anything in life, let's say.
Mm.
And with girls, it's actually kind of similar. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of girls do that to themselves. They go for the bad boy,
Oh
and
yeah,
then they get hurt, of course, and then they go through this phase through crying, uh, and then they end up with with the right guy or with another bad guy, and then it
yeah.
just repeats again.
Well, it's about them. It's if they want to kind of wake up and be like, hey, guess what? I need to change. And it's not about finding that. It's about changing themselves. If they want to change themselves, then they need to know how to do that. And if they don't,
Right.
then they're just going to do the same thing over and over and over and over. And that's with basically anyone, not just girls. It's like guys. It's like guys go do the same thing over and over again. And they got to be like, hey, guess what? This ain't working. I need to change. I'm not going to change for this person. I'm not going to change for my parents, for my school, for anyone. I need to change for myself. And that's what some people got to do.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think Life is Strange is a very good game for that because everything we just talked about, it's kind of reflected in the game at some level. You're gonna have some decisions to make, which are about changing or about trying to change other people, which is like nearly impossible. But yeah, the game is about choices. So again, if you like choices and see how life plays out, definitely check it out.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up about Max is the thing is, I think she would be a little more subdued if she didn't have her powers. But seeing that she has her powers, and I guess it's the person who's playing her for more. If you're like role playing as Max, you'd probably be more subdued. You probably wouldn't be talking to every single person you see and getting into their business. Even though Max has been the nosy, you wouldn't be. She's not an extrovert. She's an invert. She does not want to be talking to people. But the player kind of forces her, hey, we're going to talk to this person. And even goes bad, we'll just rewind and choose another option. It's about play styles. If you want to role play as Max, get into the character. She doesn't talk. She keeps to herself. She doesn't do anything. She keeps to
Yeah,
herself.
there's a lot of narration, right? So
Mm,
it's kind of like with her voice, but she's not saying it out loud.
yeah,
So when she looks at something, when she reads something, you can hear her voice, but it's just her kind of talking to herself. So there's a lot of that in the game.
yeah. And again, through the diary, um, she again comments a lot on anything that goes there. And it could be a person like a foot in front of her, and she will comment about that person in her head, and that'd be just kind of strange. But again, it's a game. You got to realize that there's game elements in this.
One thing I want to bring up also is that this changing the past thing, right? This game will make you revisit all the choices that you made in life, good or bad. And then it's going to make you think about, if you had that power to turn back time, would you do things differently? In my case, for example, definitely some things I would do different. And then it's unfortunately going to bring up some regrets.
Hmm.
But that's the way it goes. I don't. That's the way it went for me anyway. It
Oh,
brought up some memories, which, yeah, kind of definitely regrets. Let's say. How
okay.
about yourself?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, this game came to a time where I was going through depression and regretting a lot of the past. And I was thinking about that. It's like if I had these powers, I would go back and do things differently. But that kind of also, this game also made me realize if I did that, like, essentially, I would go back to a time where I didn't have all this knowledge that I had, and I wouldn't be the person that I am now. And the thing
Yep.
is that it would be erased. So the thing is, if I went back and erased all the person I am back to the person I was, would I do the same thing
Mm.
and just do the same? Yeah, it depends on if you have the knowledge of what you had now and you go back, then you would do things differently. But the thing is, it might actually be worse because, or it could be better. That's the thing. You really don't know because it's a new path. And the thing is that you wouldn't be the person you are where you were. And that's what I've learned through this game is yes, changing the past would be wonderful. A lot of regrets. You don't have to worry about regrets and all that. But the thing is, those regrets, those bad choices, how the good choices, everything made the person you are now. And the thing is, if
Yeah.
you're happy with it now, yes, you could be happy going back and changing the past and going with there, but would you be truly happy? And again, it's a what if, like what if.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, obviously, this is fictional with powers. You don't really do that. But it made me realize maybe I don't want to go and change who I was because I like the way I am now and the way I'm going now. And if I did that
Yeah.
and I changed, I wouldn't be doing that. Maybe it would take me shorter, longer, not even at all to go the path the way I am going now.
Yeah. I mean, this game kind of brings up a lot of these points, right?
Yeah.
So, let's say you change situation A to something else.
Yeah.
Well, okay. But if it's like involving a person, did you really know that person to begin with? Because maybe you didn't. And then you go into another bad path. And so that's the thing. It's not just like black and white.
Oh,
There's layers of shades of gray in between, and you never know which shade you're gonna fall into.
a lot of shades. Lots and lots and lots of shades. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that made me it literally opened my eyes to be like, is life really that bad right now?
Mm.
Like, is it really that? Like, is it like, is the thoughts of the past and regrets of the past really affecting my way of living right now? And that's the thing. It's like, that's what I kind of realized. It's like, and that's when I go with the whole thing of you need to change yourself for yourself.
Yes.
And the thing is, because sometimes, and this comes from personal experience, is that sometimes you go back to change yourself for a situation or for someone else or something. Not always, but sometimes. And the thing is, that's not always the right direction to go. And that's something that I learned after the fact. After, like, if I go back, I wouldn't have actually learned that lesson of you need to change. You want to change for yourself. And that's something I learned after I went through everything that I went through. And I learned so much after the point that I would probably want to go back to and change everything. And I wouldn't have learned anything like that. And I don't know if I would even have the direction to do that because of what happened in my life. That's my little spiel on time travel and all that. Time travels would be great, but do you really like? I would change tons of things in high school over again, or even like my early 20s or something. But if I did that, I wouldn't have my daughter, and that's the thing. Because there's again butterfly effects. If you change one little thing, you change like tons of things later on. Like I might have not met anyone that I know. And I wouldn't have. Who knows? I might have had two, three, four daughters, or none.
Yeah, I think like in this game though, like just talking about this theme, uh, you know, does Max change herself? Yes, in a way. But I think the bigger emphasis is on her changing others and changing like things,
Yeah,
seeing how something plays out, then going back to change it. I think definitely in the game it's more towards that.
it is. It is. Well, I have to say, Max is the player. So
Yeah.
you depends on what you want. You want to go back and see all the options, you do that. And the thing is, if you just want to go and be like, okay, well, I'm going to choose that one, then you just go with it and just accept it. She does like evolve a little bit, but only if the player wants her to. While the other characters, again, can evolve if the player wants them to or not. Because there's a lot of instances where people don't change. You you just leave them stagnant, just like there. And then in episode 5, so like a lot of them just die,
Yeah.
and you if you have no show interest, you can't help them because you showed no interest in actually helping them in previous chapters.
Yep, pretty much. So I
Or
think we talked about all the main characters. We
uh,
just a little bit on,
we did move through
well,
Max. You want to
yeah.
go through Chloe a little bit more, or no?
So yeah, Chloe, just for curiosity. For me, basically, she, well, again, she does drugs.
Hmm.
This kind of punk,
Yes.
doesn't respect authority, and definitely I can see those are her negative points. For the positive points, definitely she makes Max move forward. Like again, she's the catalyst. She's the catalyst for change.
Hmm.
Without her there, Max doesn't have a reason to do any of these things. But you go sneaking into the pool at
Hmm.
night, all of these kind of risky things. It I don't know. It obviously advances the story.
Yeah.
But I know that you have a lot of things to say about Chloe. So what's your main sticking
I'll
points?
kind of keep them to this episode because there's a
Yeah.
lot later stuff that I definitely want. But see that she's in pain, and I've seen a lot of girls like this, like in actual real life, where they act out because they're hurting in some way, and that's either like sometimes physical and sometimes emotional, sometimes mental. And again, it's about if you want to help yourself and change. She obviously does want to do that. She wants to break out of this shell of the person that she was, and like how, and everyone just like this, there's a vent in life, and she just, everything just kind of got taken away from her, and she has this like grudge against the world, and she wants to show it. So she changes herself, not in a good way, but in a typical, again, stereotype teenage way. It's like, oh, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you type of world to the world, basically. And I don't like the character because she's like that. She moves the plot, she helps Max in a lot of ways. She helps a lot of people in a lot of ways, also in different ways, small ways. She's very selfish in other ways. In chapter 2, I know there's a few points where just she goes and just goes, the very selfish rant. I'm trying to keep it to this episode, and but
Yeah.
right now, basically the thing is that she lets Max into her life after 5 years of not really talking or anything to her, and kind of accepting her a little bit, and then being like, okay, we'll see, kind of measuring her up, being like, well, let's see how you are now, and then realizes Max really hasn't changed at all.
It's also about this whole thing about Rachel, right? I mean,
Yeah,
suddenly Rachel is in the equation. And
that's a
okay,
whole different can of
so
worms, actually, but yeah.
it is. So Max and Chloe, best friends, maybe a little bit more. And then suddenly Rachel is a part of the equation. And Max feels kind of like, what? You were
Very left out.
supposed to be with me, kind of thing?
Very left. Well, they were best buds back when they were 14. I think it was 14. Yeah, 14. 14? 13? Before
Right.
Max went to Seattle. Um, and then everything kind of went to shit with Chloe. And then she just reaches out and does all the rebellious stuff. And then she comes across Rachel, and I'm going to avoid spoilers because that's a lot of the story behind Before the Storm. And then those two became nice and tight. Again, more possibly than just friends. And then just Rachel disappears. No
Right.
one knows what's going on. And again, Chloe feels like she's been abandoned once again because her friend took off, her father died, everyone is, hell, even her mother remarried because she was lonely and she wanted to, be loved. And Chloe just feels
Yeah.
abandoned. That's all. And
And also,
she,
like, Joyce married a very authoritative guy. And that's not good at all.
hmm, that's
If he was more like, what's his name actually? I forgot his
uh
name.
what Chloe's father?
The biological father.
William.
Oh, William. Right, right. I think if it was somebody like William, it would be one story, right? But clearly David is pretty much the opposite. Very kind of hard, tough guy who doesn't take any shit from anybody.
Yeah.
And she has an issue with that. And obviously, like, he came into their life. It's not like they came to him.
No.
He came into the life, and that's also an issue.
That's
Friction.
that's true. I just don't like how, especially as in this episode, and I'm looking at like the footage behind me, is that Chloe kind of measures up Max how she is now, and being like, it almost, she's like, oh well, you went to, like, you abandoned me to go to Seattle, and she still doesn't get that, people move, and sometimes you don't have a choice. She doesn't get that. And
Yeah.
she comes back, and Max is exactly the same, but kind of has grown a little bit. And then Chloe has changed drastically, but has done little growth from when they met there. It's kind of like you see growth, I guess internal growth and external growth, where
Yeah.
Max has done a lot of kind of internal growth, but not external growth. And then Chloe is quite the opposite, where she does a lot of external growth. And the internal growth is that she's literally 13 and just
Right.
kind of being that 13-year-old. But if anyone, everyone was against her type of thing. And she's just kind of stuck in limbo. And she needs to kind of be looking at the world a little bit more. And again, that's probably me because of a parent talking, but still suffering through stuff. But again, she refuses to kind of accept the proper help because she wants to find kind of help on her own, doing her own thing. And she believes that, going through all the phases of, I think Joyce says, like, bad boys, the piercings, the dying, the drugs, and so forth. That kind of
And the
just
bad grades.
the
And
bad
the bad
grades.
grades.
That's the thing. She
There
was
is a
like a
report
straight
card
A. She
behind.
was like
Yeah.
she was a straight A before all this happened, and then all this stuff happened, and she's like, screw it all. And again, this is like, the world's against me. Screw it all.
I think again, that's people can connect to that, right? I mean, in many ways, you could argue actually that the world is against you.
Yeah.
Definitely the rules of the world, of society, are very much rigged against somebody poor, somebody at the
Yeah.
bottom. And these things are true. These are real problems, like, we have to solve as a society. Now, you do solve that, for example, by providing healthcare to everybody,
Yeah.
or by providing a social net to everybody. But again, in some societies, you don't have that. So again, this is another point of the game where players can connect to it.
Yeah. Well, I could see, the thing is, even though I don't like her as a character, I can see why lots and lots and lots of people connect to her.
Right.
I can see that. And I can be like, yeah, I get it. That's the thing. I get it. And she's like
Yeah.
one of the best voice person in the game. Like Ashley Birch, she does a phenomenal job at voicing Chloe. And again, I want to bring it up that she's not in Before the Storm, and I got really pissed about that. Might be why I don't like it, but still, again, I don't like the character, but the character's design, meaning behind the character, is really well done. Like, it is good. And
Yeah.
that shows like a good quality production, is that you can get behind a character that you don't like.
The interesting thing also, we'll definitely talk about that later because
Yeah.
it's not for the first episode.
Yeah.
But even though, again, you may don't like her, in the 5th episode, it's still gonna bite you. No matter what you choose, the ending is still gonna get you.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll definitely get to the ending when we get there. And basically, if you play this game and you get invested in pretty much any of the characters, especially the main 2 or 3, you're gonna you're gonna you're gonna be like bawling at the end. Like there's like if you have a very much of emotion, you will be like just in tears at the end, and it doesn't matter which way you go because
Pretty much,
it
yeah.
is there's just so much emotion in this game, and it just
Yeah,
builds and builds and builds, and it just the payoff is is wonderful, and it's just like
and you
oh
also and you also know what's gonna happen after a while. You do figure it out.
yeah.
Like you know what's gonna happen. You know it's coming.
That's the greatest thing. It's like some of these things, you're like some of the big mysteries in the game, you kind of get minutes, seconds before it actually happens. It's like, oh, oh, you're like, no, no, no. You're you you that was me on episode 4. When we get there, I'll let you know. It's like, but episode 4
Right.
really got me. Episode 5 is just a pure destroyer, I have to say. But whew, this game is great. But you could even call episode 1 a little bit of a slow start, but it does introduce what it needs to be introduced.
Right.
The
Exactly.
characters, the setup of the world, and where you're going to deal with most of the issues, the problems, like the like I said, that you're mainly in the Price household for a good, at least I think once per episode, at least almost.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like going and talking to David or Joyce or Chloe and all that, like at least once per episode, and you just get a connect. Like I feel it's more, even though you're Max, you feel that Chloe is the main character also.
Yeah.
Like they're almost equal, even though you have no control over what Chloe does in some ways.
Right.
But like it's almost like a duology, like Max and Chloe. That's why they're in like every single like promotional thing, is that they are literally the same main character going through, well, not same main, but you play as one and you kind of guide the other. And the thing is that she guides you to do other things also.
Yep. Pretty much. I also gotta say, great music, especially in the first episode.
Oh yeah.
Although I do like some of the tracks in the other episodes as well. Definitely here. It's mostly by Jonathan Morali. I think it's Morales, but Morali, I guess. I don't know. Sid Matters.
Yeah.
So he's the one like To All of You and also the Obstacles. Now, the Obstacles track, which is the ending track, is interesting because actually, if you read the words, it kind of tells you that you should be with Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, even I think that song actually repeats in another episode. Again, it's to reinforce that point that you should be with Chloe at the end. And yeah, again, we'll talk about that in the future
Oh
because
yeah.
there is a comic that came out after the game, and I have
Yeah.
it. And obviously, I haven't read it yet, but it goes into one direction, and by the time we get there, I'll have a look,
Well, we
and
got
I'll
4 more episodes to
we
go.
do.
You have plenty of time to crack that up and give it a read.
Yeah, they're not very big. They're maybe 50 pages or so, I guess.
But we'll definitely get into like the comics and stuff because it is post game. So, and
It is.
we gotta talk about the ending before we get into that type into the comics.
Definitely, definitely.
I'll bring this up just a little bit because it's a little thing. Is the amount of references in this game to music, uh, TV shows, movies, and so forth. Like the example is the license plates to everyone's car is a it's not an abbreviation. It's like there's missing letters to make a word to a famous film or TV show or so forth in this. Some examples is Chloe's truck is Twin Peaks.
Mm.
Frank's VR, which is the dirty VR, is Breaking Bad, which I find hilariously clever because of Frank's character.
Right.
Nathan's car is 6 Feet Under, the show. Again, a little on the nose there. Just a little bit there. And Warren's car is the X-Files.
Right, right.
That's just some of the big ones, but there is like every single car has some kind of connection to some TV show or movie that's deals with like either supernatural or sci-fi or like I guess Breaking Bad is like a dramatic one.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I
So
haven't seen it. I know what it's about.
yeah.
But yeah.
So clever's like that. There's also tons of references in like the backgrounds you can check out. So it's clever. There's a lot of time to put in like a subdued reference in like Max's room that you would just gloss over because you're trying to find something. So I do find that rather good for the developers to put that much detail into the game.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, if you want to go with the references, that can be an episode on its own
Oh yeah,
because there's a lot of it. Like you mentioned, Twin Peaks. There's actually a lot of references. It's not just the license plate.
oh yeah.
There's a lot there. Um,
Well,
again,
again,
Twin
it's
Peaks.
also
I haven't seen it. I know a little bit about it. I know it's David Lynch's thing. I haven't seen the new one either. But yeah, definitely references there. The butterfly effect.
yep, makes sense. Makes sense.
Donnie Darko, that's for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
Blue is the warmest color.
The big thing is that a lot of it to do with like time travel themselves, like time travel
Yep.
movies.
The girl with the dragon tattoo. That's
Yeah.
makes sense. Stephen King, of course. More the books.
Yep.
Yeah, Gone Home. Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep.
I do remember a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the license plate. I can't remember which one it was, but that was I think it was just a random car in the parking lot.
It is. It is. There's like science references again, butterfly effect, chaos theory, grandfather paradox. It's interesting. Again, these things are great to kind of talk about in a kind of separate thing because, like the grandfather paradox, that's a thing on its own.
Oh, yeah.
Like personally, there was there was a kind of story maybe about 20 years ago now with John Titor. He claimed to be a time traveler from the future.
Hmm.
He's actually featured in Steins Gate, which is another time travel thing.
Hmm.
And he actually says that the grandfather paradox is not a thing because he has so explanations you can read about it if you're interested.
Yeah.
Multiverse theory, we kind of touched about that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Newton's laws, Schrodinger's cat, wormhole theory. So yeah, there's a ton of references. A lot of Twin Peaks references for sure.
Yeah. Well, Twin Peaks is just crazy. Like, there's so many forms of media, especially games, that just go into Twin Peaks, or even David Lynch's mind, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So like he's a odd director that
He is.
I absolutely like. He's my like almost number one director of, because he does some weird shit, and you'd have no idea. And obviously, you went to film school with me, so you know that I do like to do some weird stuff myself.
Oh yeah. Well, I would just say David Lynch, Lost Highway.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Again, you got this thing with a tape in it, and you know these people get the tape where somebody basically went into their house and like filmed them sleeping or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
And again, this theme is featured in Life is Strange because the whole thing with Kate, right?
yeah, yeah. Like invading one's privacy, and then almost like gloating about it, and it'd be like, yes, I did this. What are you gonna do?
Right. Just talking very briefly about the main villain, right?
Are we talking the
It's
main
obviously
villain, or are we talk?
well, I just want to say, kind of without spoilers,
Okay,
let's say that you just finished the first episode.
yeah,
Obviously you were introduced to some characters like Mr. Jefferson and
yeah.
David, Nathan, and others.
That could be potential villains. Yes.
Could
Yeah.
be. But just from the first episode alone, did you have an idea, like a clear idea? Okay, yeah, this is the main bad guy.
In hindsight, like who knowing like who's behind it all.
Without hindsight, without
Yeah.
hindsight.
But when I went through it the first time,
Right,
no idea. No idea.
right,
Absolutely not. And that's great, like, because it's the writing and the world, and they again really put it thick on these characters and who you're. They even like kind of direct you, like even with the whole Nathan thing. It's like you want to hate this guy, basically. So,
yeah,
and it shows good writing. Like if you're invested in characters, again, you can have good writing, but the characters got to stand out because you remember more of the characters. Like I remember Nathan being an ass, but the thing is he really? But the thing is, you see cracks of decentness in him, even in this chapter. Like there's just cracks of it, and but the thing is, the the developers want you to hate him in this one. Be like, yes, he he literally killed this girl that you find out that is your best friend, and then you saved. But the thing is, Max saw
right,
him shoot her. And the thing is, yeah, there's like he was attempts to kill her. So you want to hate this guy. So yes, there's just like that. Other than that, there's David, where he's just a dick. Just a dick. That's all. And the writers and the developers want you to think that, because he is not open. He does not talk about his feelings or what he's doing and all that. He's stuck in his head, and what he actually what he does, he believed is right,
Right, right.
and that's the way he proceeds himself.
Yeah, for me, like, I thought Nathan is just he's, like, too young to be a mastermind.
Hmm.
He could be, but I really didn't feel like he was. I really felt like he was a tool, which he is. Surprise, surprise.
It is.
So, for me, after the first episode, I thought it was probably David because he's like a control freak,
Hmm.
and he's a surveillance freak, and he has, kind of a degree of power at the college because
Hmm.
he's the main security guy. So that was my kind of feeling after the first episode.
Yeah. After the first episode, I know that Nathan was something, maybe not like the main one, but I knew that he was going to do something. But for a main antagonist in this game, I really didn't know. Like obviously, there for David, the only antagonist was maybe people who didn't like him, like
Mhm.
obviously Chloe, uh, a few students like Kate and all that. But as a main villain, I didn't see that. It's like I saw him as just being a one-minded individual that just did what he wanted, and he tried to, because yes, he's the head of security for the school, but the thing is that he still has to follow rules, and he wants to put surveillances in the school. But the thing is, obviously, that Miss Grant and her petition is putting that in jeopardy. So he still has to follow the rules of the school. He just can't be like, "Oh, I want cameras up the school," and they do it. No, there's the people behind that, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want this."
True, true.
So I didn't. So as for, I was thinking like there was someone more, but not introduced in this one. And then obviously at the end of the episode where we get the montage with the awesome music is that we see Frank for the first time, and we don't know who this is. That's the thing. So, and obviously he's disheveled and comes out of it like with a bong and all that. So he could be, and we'll get into more his character in the second one. But the thing is, who is this guy? He might be something more, and
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I also thought maybe it's the principal,
Mm,
because the principal, for example, when if you complain about Nathan's gun,
yes,
he kind of like just dismisses it, like it's not a big deal. And for me, that's like, okay, he's trying to cover something up, which he is.
he is, he is,
he's
but
he's you know.
there's also the thing of there's Chloe. Chloe made a point um, when you actually, if you do tell, report Nathan, and then you tell Chloe that you actually told the principal, she basically calls him a tool. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
she can see that he's really nothing but just a tool, basically.
Mm.
So that actually stuck out to me because I did that path, and I'm like, oh, he's not really. He's just a pawn, basically
Mm.
in this thing, and he didn't really seem all there, and it explains why he is in later episodes that he's a heavy drinker. So that explains why he's a little not there.
Well, I mean, I work in education. I can tell you that heavy drinker, I can understand.
Hmm.
Definitely, as far as the main villain, without naming him,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I didn't see it coming. Although you definitely get signs here and there, but really
Oh,
nothing,
definitely.
not much, not much.
Oh, definitely.
But
Like,
although they do have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the ending of the episode, in that kind of mini movie,
yeah.
I think you see Jefferson and the principal talking.
Not
I
in
think
this one. Not in this one.
it's
That's
not the
in
first one.
episode 2, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Because I
All
don't
right.
think there's anyone together. I think they're all in their separate rooms in the first one.
Mm,
But the thing is, the big one to kind of hint, to foreshadow what is the main villain is he clearly says something literally almost at the beginning of the game to indicate
right,
his true
right,
intentions. And again, if you play it for the first time without knowing that, it just seems like lecture. And like
like a random thing. Right,
a
right,
random
right.
thing. That's the thing. It's like you hear this random conversation going on, and you're like, you just put it off as random conversation. But you look back on it, and it's like, oh, that's a oh moment.
Right, right.
And again, also we're going to get into a little bit of spoilers, and I probably gave it away who it was, but again, we're not going to say the name until probably episode 4, because that's when it's revealed. But again, there's a lot of hints throughout the game that points to the main villain. So
Yeah.
so that's going to be pretty much it for at least the first episode. We talked your ear off for at least probably an hour and a half plus. We'll go with that. So I'm going to edit down a little bit. But other than that, holy cow. Like we have 4 more episodes to go. Wow. Lots to talk about. Lots about. So,
It is. Life is Strange, great game. I mean, for me, again, I said kind of Mass Effect is probably like my favorite, but mainly it's because it's sci-fi and I'm a sucker for sci-fi. But again, it had great character development, choices as well.
mhm,
But yeah, just because it's in a sci-fi environment, for me, it kind of wins it. Life is Strange, though, is definitely like probably second place. Like you said, we have 4 more episodes to go.
yep.
It does get better. Like if
Oh yeah.
you really enjoyed episode 1, trust me, the 4 next ones are even better.
Oh yeah, no. Like if you're kind of lukewarm about this one, the next episode ramps it up like
Mm.
like a steep hill.
Right.
So it is but if you got if the episode 1 got your hooks in there, you definitely enjoy the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I think like also these days, right, this game, when it was released initially, it was made in episodes.
Yes.
So you play the first episode, let's say, it takes a week to beat it or something like that. And then you have to wait.
Yeah,
You have to
months.
wait
It was like at
2
least
months.
3 months at least, most between each episode. So I did that. Like I did the first episode. I waited 3 months to play the second one, and then 3 months after that to play the third, and so much. And then when like at least the end of the third going into the fourth, that's when you're like, "Oh my god, I want to know what happens." Like that's to the point of like I got to play the rest of it. And then by the
Yeah.
fourth to the fifth, you're like, I need this. I need this. People were going insane wanting to know theories up the yin
Yes.
yang, going like I remember that, and it was like absolutely crazy. So it was a good way to build hype, but it frustrated so many people because they just wanted to play it. So whoever's playing
Right.
it now,
So
count it lucky because you can play it all of it at once.
exactly, exactly. So there are many games like that out there, like the Walking Dead series were also made in episodes. Personally, for me, look, It's a good thing if you wanna do that, but personally, I prefer to have the whole game and then just go through the episodes, because if you have to wait months between the game, you're gonna do other stuff and you're gonna get distracted, and it's
Mm.
it's just not gonna have the same impact.
That I can get behind that, but I can also get behind doing it episodic, uh, because it might not be all done. And the thing is that
Yeah.
if they waited for the whole game to get done, it might have lost interest. And again, it's the way every episode kind of ended, almost on a cliffhanger.
Mm.
And it's like actually it reminded me of like old 90s dramas and sci-fi shows where they had the cliffhanger at the end of the season, and you got to come in like after the summer going into the new season. You're kind of talking about, oh, that season's finale was just amazing, can't wait to see how it concludes, like in a few months from now. And it
True,
just kind of
true.
reminded me of that. And it's like they played it good, they played it very well, but again, Don't Not as a company or a studio was just coming off like a almost critical failure from Remember Me. Like it did sort of well, but not what they wanted it to do. So they were struggling. And that's what a lot of studios kind of go to, that breaking point of like, we got to make a hit, or we're basically doing something else, or we're going to be disbanding the company and just doing our own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I actually played Remember Me. I know what it is. It's decent. It's not. It has its flaws, but it's decent as a game. It had those sequences where you had to kind of go back into time and change stuff, and I found those to be very difficult actually. Like without a walkthrough, I actually thought it's impossible.
hmm, I've never played it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But but I'm just saying, it's like there's a lot of studios that just kind of have to get this make or break thing,
Yep.
and some go up to the challenge while others just crumble. And it's really good to see that Don't Not actually came out and made a awesome narrative game. And again, that's also another thing, is that it's a narrative game.
It is.
At the time, there wasn't too many, especially well known. Like there's obviously Mass Effect. Yeah, Mass Effect is, but that's also kind of category under shooter RPG narrative type game. This one is just pure narrative, and other than like whatever's done by Quantic Dream at the time.
Yeah, I would say like Dreamfall.
Yeah.
First and second Dreamfall, fantastic games. Third one, not so much. But the first two, fantastic.
So yeah, just keep on going. And it's like and even after Life is Strange came out, there was kind of like even a boost of narrative games, I've noticed. So, it's about setting trends. It's like, oh, well, there's no narrative games out there, or there's barely any narrative games out there. Why don't we just make one? And yeah, we don't have maybe the budget to do the entire thing. We'll do it episode by episode, and you can see that the budget kind of weared thin near the end a little bit, especially episode 5. It could have been slightly better, but again, when we get there.
Right.
But again, the quality still there, production value still there. It's just they could have done things a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
there's there. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Great game. Definitely, if you're kind of new into gaming, because I know like a few people who are like, oh, well, games, but I don't know what to play. So
Yeah.
definitely a good one. Definitely a good one to get into gaming if you're, new into the field. And it, like I said, it just gets better.
Oh yeah, definitely from here. It's a good starting point, and it's good to see that they just made more. Like it's just
Right.
it just went from here, and they got quality all over the board. Music, art direction, yeah, even the graphics. Like I like to say that the graphics are kind of bland and flat, but the thing is, it fits the style. Like I said, like at the beginning of this video, and it grows on you. That's the thing; it grows on you, and I really feel that they did a great direction, and that's probably what kind of took the hit in the budget is the graphics to put in like excellent writing and music and even voice talent. Voice talent is good. Like not everyone is not everyone is like great, but the main ones. Like I could not hear Max without I can't remember her name, but Max's voice actor do anyone else or Max do anyone else do Max or Chloe.
Right.
That's why I'm kind of
Right.
like a little bitter about Before the Storm, but we'll get there. And that's my final thoughts. Great game. Bring out the tissues. You're going to need them.
I think like because now we have sequels.
Yeah.
I know just from people talking about them, definitely this is the one you want to play.
Yeah.
The second one, not so much, and the new one, I have no idea. I have never read anything yet, but definitely this one, good stuff. Check it out.
Yeah. There's also want to point out that the Before the Storm and the new one, which is True Colors, is actually by a different development team, which is Deck Nine, and this is obviously Donut, and they did this one, number two, the side story of Captain Spirit, and I think they did another one, but I can't remember. But I think that's all the Life is Strange that they did.
These days, it's available on Steam, by the way, so you get the whole package.
It is
You get
on
the whole thing.
PC also.
Yep.
It's on PC. It's on PS4. I know it's on Xbox One. I want to say. It's just on.
It's on mobile too.
It's on mobile too. Yeah, and then of the recording of this actual here, the remaster collection just came out. So there's that also. So if you don't like the bland graphics of the original, they're slightly better.
Okay, so just sign off from me personally. What I'm working on is still mostly really retro stuff. So I'm planning to like Fancy General, Panzer General. But there's a couple of few games I want to do. I'm testing out weird NES thing. So yeah, kind of a mix of stuff. My channel is lots of stuff, so check it out. You never know what's coming up.
And where can we find you on Twitch?
Twitch. I am Otaku Ops 69.
There you go.
But I
And
don't do a lot of streaming. I mostly do a lot of recording and then on YouTube.
well, still you stream a few times, so
Still, yep.
you want to go there. And then obviously information is on the bottom here. And for my channel, I'm finishing up some old projects. Haunting Grounds, I'm finally finishing after like 2 years. And then I'm going to be going into Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remastered with my new style of webcam, possibly with green screen because I'm actually enjoying the green screen and how it looks. So probably that. I'm doing voices with it, really getting into the story, all that, and then there's daily gameplay videos of Persona 3 coming out. So that's with my channel. Dreaming, no, not yet, but just check out the channel. and we'll see you out there. Thank you for joining me on this great discussion of a epic game that's
Thank you
just
for having me.
beautiful. And obviously, episode 2 is probably going to be in the works, but not for maybe a couple weeks or a month from now or something, depending on that. We got to set this up, get notes and all that, prepare for it, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, because even for me, like just doing this thing, even though I played it many times, just because of the time that has passed since, I had to remember certain things. So definitely that's a lot of work. It's
Right.
a lot of like notes to prepare the episode. It's not just sit down and do it. It's a lot of people don't really see the back work that goes into this, but there's a lot of work that goes into these videos.
That's true. Like the footage behind me is me going through the entire episode. Like I usually do that in like maybe 1 or 2 sessions. During the process of editing, that's when I do my notes because I see and I do like, oh, I want to point this out, I want to point this out and point out this, and then we always reference the wiki to kind of be like, oh, we want to talk about this or this or this or this. And again, that wiki, oh my god, is you can take hours upon hours and read lots and lots of stuff.
Oh, yes.
And there we are. We are actually at the end of the actual video behind us because there's the snow.
Indeed.
Also, I want to point out that you did a cover of the song that's probably going to be playing on right about now. So definitely go check that out over his channel. I'll probably put it in the description also below, and I'll add a snippet at the end of the video here.
Oh, please do. Yeah,
I
I
did.
I enjoy singing. I thought I actually wanted to do it in my proper studio, but because of time constraints, I couldn't. So I just did it very quickly, actually. And the one I end up recording was literally the second try. So it's not like I sat here and practiced for hours and hours. No, it was literally just the second try. The first try, not so good, but the second one was pretty good.
And I do have a question, one more. Are
All
you
right.
going to do a cover for the ending of the second episode also?
No, I'm just planning to do obstacles
Okay.
and also the Spanish Sahara
Okay.
at some point in the future.
All right. Sounds awesome. Okay. So thanks for being on, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Right. Yep. Definitely stay safe. And Otaku Ops signing off.
Yeah. And there's the Rachel. Ooh, what is this?
But as far as I can remember, we've been migratory animals living under changing weather.